Keep Right with Ralph K. Ginorio, Anxiety, Vanity, and Complacency. Today, anxiety is on the rise among most Americans. The American standard of living, having been stagnant for a half century, is quickly deteriorating. The value of the labor of the American worker has been diluted by the influx of women, immigrants, and automation into the labor market. Our best and brightest elites have turned on U.S. citizens, finding ideological and climatological theory more appealing than serving the practical interests of individuals and families. Mainline Christian churches were the first cultural institutions in the Western world to have been compromised by corruption and theoretical flights of fancy, repelling believers by replacing complex theology and simple devotion with licentiousness, modernism, liberation theology, which is Christian communism, and fundamentalism. Without a broad Judeo-Christian consensus where most people, most of the time, control themselves, neither Western concepts of human rights, law and order, nor citizen-directed republics can function. Post-Cold War opportunity to encourage liberty-oriented change around the world was supplanted by spiraling decadence at home, coupled with a massive investment scheme that has turned communist China from a poor and backwards brutal totalitarianism to a well-financed and high-tech brutal totalitarianism. Most schools, and nearly every public school from pre-kindergarten through postdoctoral programs, are run by technocrats who have been trained to abandon their common sense and civic responsibility in service to a bizarre, bureaucratic, utopian methodology. Schools that should be training creative and curious young citizens how to think independently are instead intensifying their oppression against any student, family, or teacher who dissents from their new orthodoxy. A latter-day Spanish Civil War is being waged in the Ukraine, a proxy battle between the Washington-centered global system and an alternative system centered on Peking. The pandemic undermined worldwide trade, revealing how delicate our systems of providing food and other necessities have become. The permanent federal bureaucracy waged open war against the duly elected president from inauguration 2017 through inauguration 2021. And our Federal Bureau of Investigation has become a Gestapo, oriented towards punishing anyone who challenges National Democratic Party rule. The absurd double standard between the ways that the Department of Justice have persecuted President Trump and protected President Biden under remarkably identical circumstances is obscene. Coal-fired pizza ovens, gas stoves, and incandescent light bulbs are being regulated out of the marketplace. Energy supplies are being artificially throttled, and the unique role of the United States dollar in the buying and selling of petroleum has been destroyed. Concurrently, a new BRICS currency threatens to supplant the U.S. dollar, further undermining our buying power. The federal government is willfully undermining the value of U.S. citizenship and instead is injecting millions of illegal aliens deep into American society. Banks have already begun restricting people from using their own money digitally, as with the Freedom Convoy of Canadian truckers who, at the behest of Justin Trudeau, were cut off from their own money without due process of law. Environmental social governance collusion, in the name of both diversity, equity, inclusion, and militant environmentalism, have broken down the divided powers within government and between government and business, divisions that permit the very existence of personal freedom. Traditional nuclear and extended families are increasingly rare as young men are having their transition into the manly roles of protector and provider undermined. The feminists who have destroyed generations of young men have done worse with women setting them on a path to vainglorious isolation, bitter loneliness, and empty childlessness. The relationships that make life worth living have been fractured into uselessness. Young adults have little hope of matching their parents' living standard, let alone exceeding it. Working class Americans take so many jobs that they work as many hours per week as the most desperate Dickensian drudge. With intensifying hopelessness, without the comforts of faith and family, life becomes unbearable. Suicide rates climb and drug addiction proliferates. The only logical outcome of these trends is a reversal of the American Revolution and the establishment of a new medieval brutalism that establishes a worldwide system of masters and slaves. But this time, the new dark age will not be leavened by broadly held Christian hopes and faith. Coupled with all of this is the possibility that a newly empowered feudal technocracy will employ ubiquitous artificial intelligence, surveillance, and systems of control to turn human slaves into silicon-chipped livestock. Simultaneously, the newly entitled global elite will attempt to increase the luxury and length of their own parasitical lives, potentially dividing mankind into divergent species for the first time since the disappearance of the Neanderthals. All of this, of course, if AI does not exterminate us and supplant us completely. Details may differ, but a growing macrocosmic angst seems to be plaguing most Americans. We are no longer confident that we can build a better future. We have come to doubt the benefits of both political freedom and free enterprise. Widespread abortion on demand seems to prove that we cannot be trusted to make wise and beneficial choices on a serious level. This is all because we have been taught to openly doubt ourselves and to secretly hate ourselves. The distorted masochism that passes for historical instruction in most schools and universities asserts that we deserve to feel a deep shame about ourselves and our Western and American heritage. This shame has been increasingly stoked in popular culture for generations. We have even been encouraged to see the United States, the last best hope for freedom on this earth, as nothing more than white supremacy colonialism. Our Enlightenment philosophies, constitutional republic, civil war, emancipation of the slaves, female enfranchisement, civil rights movement are de-emphasized, while we are castigated as having been the worst offenders of racism, slavery, and warfare in all of human history. In reality, nothing could be further from the truth. All of this may not be in everyone's mind, as it is in mine. However, there is real reason to see life in America as we have known it coming soon to an end. Most of us are worried. Some of us look to a benevolent and all-knowing God to work his loving will because we have so clearly sabotaged our society and brought humanity to the brink of the abyss. Some of us still hope that any and all of these dark trends may be reversed. We, prisoners of hope, still believe that if a critical mass of American individuals wake up to our power to reform ourselves and redeem our society, then a recognizable America can yet be saved. We do not expect politicians to save us, nor do we expect to be taken care of by government. We who perceive the calamitous potentials in current events wish, as free men and women, to reclaim our constitutional republic and build a colorblind meritocracy, a nation under fair laws that is not at the mercy of technocrats or tyrants. This is why there is so much frustration against our local Republican Party leadership here in North Idaho. Many of us who are North Idaho conservatives share a vision about how we may best move forward. Here, of all communities within the United States, we of like mind seem to be in the majority. Here, we still maintain a healthy community of self-supporting individuals. It is bad enough that the local newspaper is openly left-leaning and that our local schools are in the hands of unscrupulous careerists who have little interest in traditional notions of American education. Worse yet, it seems that our state Republican Party leadership seems more like Mitt Romney than Ron DeSantis. But here, locally, within Kootenai County, we have leadership that seems to tend towards either vanity or complacency. I support the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, KCRCC, but not blindly. There have been too many instances of cults of personality developing where membership in the tribe trumps both rectitude in policy and seriousness in conduct. The need for truly conservative leadership that aspires to be worth trusting trumps anyone's vanity or personal ambitions. At least it should. Meanwhile, those who have traditionally led our Republican Party locally in the past have established the North Idaho Republicans group. I agree with these experienced people that there are concerning tendencies within the KCRCC towards an over-centralization of power in service to a narrow factionalism. However, the North Idaho Republicans, NIR, seems more interested in demonstrating that they personally are not to be confused with the rough-necked infighting and boisterous populism of some in the KCRCC. The split between KCRCC and NIR is more about style than it is about substance. Social class norms also play a role in the tensions between working class and middle class KCRCC enthusiasts and accomplished local figures in the NIR. I must also say that a degree of territorial wolfishness is at play as well. Who of us will lead, quote, our party, unquote, in determining what constitutes, quote, our ideas, unquote, about policy and community? Who gets to be chief? Republicans of all stripes, stop it. We need crusaders in office who can face up to the nightmare scenarios that colored the early part of this column. We need elected officials who appreciate the urgency of this historical moment. Our goal should not be to avoid conflict with the left and smooth over our differences. We should aggressively engage with the inertia of government and the complacency of bureaucrats to move norms away from statist communitarianism and back towards rugged individualism. In my judgment, the KCRCC's urgency serves us well. However, this urgency should be accomplished by a scrupulous dedication to the mission over personalities. And we need a constant clarity about the worth of our intrinsic benefit, the intrinsic benefit that our shared goals will have for all Americans. We need a drumbeat selling this message because it's true, because we will have made it true. We will have earned trust with deeds. Instead, an impulsive and brittle vanity is often projected by members of the KCRCC. The NIR has proven wisdom and experience, but in rejecting the raucous clamor of many in KCRCC, there is an appearance of complacency. We cannot even seem to be complacent in the face of the kinds of fears referenced earlier in this column. The needs of this moment are urgent. I could care less whether KCRCC's Brent Regan or NIR's Sandy Patano get the credit for leading the fight to reclaim constitutional government in North Idaho, so long as this imperative is assiduously pursued. Republicans and conservatives, our real fight is to crusade together for conservative change.